Hey everybody. This is our second episode of the Club podcast. Um, as you already know, I'm Edward. We have Samantha, Murnell, and Sean. Um,
Morning.
hello, yeah. Everybody say
Good
hi.
morning. Hi.
Hello.
You
It's
stop
currently
saying good. Can
7
you
p.m.
stop saying good morning? It's not. Anyways. Um, thank you everybody who tuned in last time. We appreciate it. Today we wanted to talk about a few different topics, but we're mainly going to focus on a theme, really. This podcast, and that's usually because we usually find something in the media we want to talk about, and we can kind of tie it into a bunch of different stuff in our lives and talk about how we can kind of work to fix it a little bit. And today's theme, what we want to talk about is like how mental health is exploited in the media, namely with celebrities. For many people who are listening to this, they can probably infer what we want to talk about this episode. It's kind of obvious. However, we're going to talk about a few different aspects of it as well. Maybe some other cases that are not as mainstream. And yeah, other than that, how's everybody doing?
I'm doing amazing, bro.
Ah, you love to hear it. Love to hear it.
Yes, sir.
How about you, Renal? You chilling?
Incredible.
Incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Oh my goodness. What about you, Sam? Are you
I'm
incredible?
alright. Yeah.
What'd you have to do that for, man? I'm alright. I'm alright.
Oh my god.
Alright. Always on something, man. Alright. Okay. So, first thing we want to talk about. Yeah, so celebrities, mental health in the media, right? I can start us off. As many of us can guess. First thing we wanted to talk about is the whole Kanye situation, right? And for those who don't know, right? Actually, it's quite unrealistic that you don't know, but if you do, we'll go over it anyways. It's basically the whole idea is that Kanye had a divorce recently with his wife, and
Well, he did claim that he didn't get the papers.
oh, so they're not divorced?
No, Kim gave said that she gave the papers in February. Then Kanye came out and said, "Oh, I never got the papers." Blah blah blah. But I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what he said.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it's Kanye. So he got them. They're technically divorced. They're separated, and they've been going like back and I'm not going back and forth, but like they've had like some interactions. Kanye's been vocalizing a lot of his thoughts on Instagram. And for those who don't know, Kanye has bipolar disorder. So, namely, a lot of these posts or expressions seem very like unhinged at times, or like they seem very like powerful. So it's quite easy for people to just kind of say, oh well, he's insane, even though it's quite realistic he might be having a manic episode. However, one of the biggest things that come to question is that, well, this is a huge artist with lots of backing. He has his own record label. He's literally the richest black man in America. He probably has some managers, right? Some social media managers. Well, why is this happening? Why are they not controlling this? Or is this a choice that was made, right? So, yeah, what do you guys think about this? You guys have any ideas? What do you guys think is going on?
Y'all can go first.
Well, I think the media is really controlling the narrative, as there's like a lot of articles on it, but they don't really talk on the issues, like his mental health issues, and they're just, what's the word? Exploiting it for news. Like TMZ, like often does that a lot with a lot of celebrities and their dramas.
Yeah, I totally see that. Like, oh, they do this all the time, right? Like, all like those like crazy clips of Kanye and like
Yeah.
Kanye like cussing out a TMZ reporter is like probably like the majority of their views on a page ever. So that's kind of realistic, right? So like you said, they're controlling the narrative, right? So and like, why are they controlling the narrative, right? It's because they are making a ton of money off this, right?
Yeah.
Specifically them, and I could say like they're probably working hand in hand with their like the music labels, right? Or like higher management, because this like people say, like bad publicity is still publicity, right? Like you're still like attracting a ton of attention. He probably has an outreach of like a few 100 million people, and
Yeah.
like if not more. So just to even tie this in right after, right? Like these like record labels are making a huge like buck off this, because if for those who haven't been following, right after this all happened, Kanye is now talking about a new album he wants to release, right? Dawn to 2. And if also he also has a documentary that came out recently, which is actually really good. Recommend people go
Is
watch
it?
that.
I didn't see it. Is it on?
Actually, on
It's on
Netflix.
Netflix.
Yeah,
It's on Netflix. Okay.
awesome. Okay.
What's it on? Just him?
Yeah, it's like, so I think there's a trilogy, right?
Mhm.
And the whole point is that the first episode is him talking about his past, and it's basically like this guy Cootie, I think his name is, and basically films him from when he, in like from '98. Like, so he had like this vision that he's gonna,
Damn.
yeah, like he knew he was gonna be big. So it was actually, it's really cool, lots of footage. But yeah, anyway, sorry, back, we got a little distracted, but
Look at the amount of stuff that they released
yeah,
after this whole situation happened. I
right,
mean, earlier we were talking about the music streaming platform is gonna make the speaker thing.
right,
Mhm.
right.
I completely forgot about the Netflix show. I did see it like pop up. I didn't watch it, but I did see that come up, and I think that's all in response to the interest that's been generated from this whole thing. And it's because of that, it's not hard. It's not a crazy thing to come to the conclusion that a lot of the stuff that's that you know, the interaction between Kim and Kanye has been like over glorified and like milked by
Oh, definitely.
media and their marketing team.
Yeah. So like, if there's anything we can really take away from this, right? Like it's so obvious that like, and like if you think even like the nature of what is being promoted right now, like if we think about it, like a documentary after a whole like manic episode, literally, if like that's like the direct logical like product to put after, right? Like everybody wants to know like, oh,
What happened?
what happened, right? Or or for those who are misinformed, they're like, oh, what's going on? Maybe I'll watch the documentary, and from that I'll learn something. Like that's kind of obvious, right? Like, and then while that's happening, other people are like, why do people like Kanye? And while like they who haven't listened to his music, oh, look at that, Kanye's releasing a new album. I'm gonna listen to that. I'm gonna see what the hype's all about. They go back to listen to his old music. They're gonna listen to this one. People buy his stem player. Then people go on this. And even though I don't like to say this, and I'm not even sure if this is true, even though maybe Kanye himself is having a manic attack and his mental illness is very real, right? I'm not gonna like accessorize it, right? Like, even though that's all happening, and he's probably maybe suffering to an extent because of it, he's still indirectly going to be profiting, and more importantly, the people who are allowing it to be public are going to be profiting even more, right? All the royalties, all that stuff. If for those who don't know, a lot of record labels, when they release music, they get a huge amount of money. So if I were to subdivide it, roughly 40 to 50% of the cost, or that's generous. I'll say 40% of the money goes to record label fees, and then the artist and the producer can then split it up, where I think on census it'll be something around the neighborhood of like artist gets another like 30 or something like that, and then they split it with the producer. Producers can get anywhere. It's very variable. I usually hear 15% is the average rate, but the whole point is that all these like external factors are what's making the majority of music off streaming services. So like it's very evident that like the capitalization of mental health on like those who are like disenfranchised in media is like a huge business, right?
Now here's
Yeah.
another thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Kanye is or you know, Kanye is agreeing with the fact that they're making him into kind of a celebrity, and like a big driving force is his mental health with that, because he's probably making a lot of money based off of that as well. So
For sure.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if he agrees with the usage of his
Yeah.
mental health.
Yeah. And like now if we even if we want to like, I totally agree with you on that point, right? Like what I was thinking we can like even talk about is like right now we're talking about the business aspect, right? The whole monetary aspect. If we shift over to like the actual like personal aspect, like the idea of like exploiting mental illness, like the ethical idea here, right? Like you can see how like a lot of times it's not only Kanye, like a lot of like I see this a lot with like disenfranchised groups. So we can talk about how like black men in the media can sometimes get with mental illness can get like exploited. We can talk about how like other like minority groups are exploited in the media when they have mental illness. Like there are many times when, for example, like someone of a majority group, let's say like a white woman, I can say like for example Demi Lovato, right? Huge actress. Um, Taylor Swift has talked about her mental health issues. Both of these artists have not received the same treatment because they're not as controversial and not as like outspoken in their opinions. And it just so happens that like it's kind of like you can kind of start seeing trends, right? So yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Well, I mean, when Britney Spears had her outbreak, like mental illness, that was pretty popularized.
That's
Or
true,
media. It was
It
very strong
was
in the media lens.
but I don't feel like I totally agree with you on that. I just feel like
Hmm.
it was vilified a lot less. So
That's true. They
right.
just saw her as a crazy woman. They really
But
put her
people,
out as the
people,
villain.
people were really like into like. Remember, there was a Save Britney thing, like,
Yeah.
like her mental health issue. People were like automatically able to locate the problem, and people were like, "Oh, it's because her parents like exploited her," and are
Yeah.
showing her empathy, right? If you go into the Kanye's like comment sections, it's
Yeah.
it's polarities, right? You have the like people who are like super for him, like the people who have no brain capacity and are like just promoting
Right. So
his mental health issue. But then there's
yeah.
also like the Swifties and like all the white women in the comments who are like basically like saying he's manic, he's unhinged, don't let him near the kids. Like, really? He's
Yeah.
not that dangerous. He's not gonna cause a problem. He loves his children more than he loves anything. So
Yeah.
like a little bit unfair. And I see this a lot. We had like we actually were talking about this earlier. For example, um Tyrese Gibson, an actor,
Mhm.
he had like a meme that was made out of him because he was like crying about not seeing his daughter, another black man, and that was like made a meme out of that because of like his hysteric crying that was on the internet. So like that's also like another example of how like people it's easy to like or like it's easy for some people to do that. Um, but yeah, you guys know any kind of other examples of how like this could affect people, like stuff like that?
Personally, I have a very strong opinion that you shouldn't really care about this stuff too much.
I feel. So you
I
mean
feel
like
like it's. I feel personally, I feel like it's a waste of time. But
I see,
I know some people are heavily interested. Like his music's good,
right?
and that's pretty much all I focus on in terms of that.
I
Like
see.
overall, though, like I mean, everything else is just publicity stuff. Like everything, you have to recognize that everything that's celebrities put out, it's all heavily monitored, and there's always a reason to it. And yeah, in the end, it's what makes them money, and good for them. So that's all I have to say in terms of that.
That's a good point. Yeah, like we don't even know if like half this stuff is even real, like or if
Yeah,
even a
like
majority
it's
of it
heavily
is.
monitored. It's really easy, especially with like social media and everything. You could, it's
Right.
really hard to know what's true, what's the truth versus what's not,
Yeah, that's a great point
especially
actually.
with like stuff regarding celebrities.
Right? Exactly. Right. And actually, like if we like talk about that, right? Like the whole idea of how like that whole persona could be fabricated, right? Like take for example, what we were talking. Oh, like the substance abuse, right? Like people were like overdosing. How like people were or like the record labels again, like they martyred like they made martyrdom out of the people who overdosed and like literally the whole like persona that like these people were like legends and like I'm not gonna like disregard any musical achievement, but I'm saying like the whole like legacy aspect of like some issue of like substance abuse because of mental health, right, is then like you said um these like big industries like I said are fabricating this whole like image like, oh, he's a legend, like
Mm.
they never die or something. Like the whole like legends will never die is so like asinine. Like you're being so rude. Like
I
Yeah.
actually have I actually have an interesting quote. I don't remember where I got it from, but it's stuck in my head.
no?
And this is I would say it's something maybe on more like radical side,
Mhm.
or like people stop like believing in the good of people or whatnot. But I heard that again, I wish I knew who said it, but
Mm.
it's easier to make money off an artist who's dead versus one who's living.
Right.
So
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
And like we can look at like for example like Michael Jackson, right? I mean that's like a very obvious case, right? Like he's been dead for a long time.
I think the Michael Jackson one's different because his following is like off the charts. Like that's just something else.
That's
Yeah.
true. He's kind of a special case.
When you mentioned like the Legends Never Die, like profiting off of that, my head immediately went to like, you know those sweaters they sell?
Right, right.
And literally just say Legends Never Die and it has like Juice WRLD on it.
Right, like
No.
like the V-Lone sweaters, like the guys who like
Oh my God.
don't get me started on V-Lone, they're a whole other problem. Right? But like yeah, like those like the companies that make like the $300 sweaters but people buy them because they have like some artist they like on them. And like that's direct example, like you said, right, of just a company profiting on like somebody's mental health issue that literally killed them, right? And then there's a whole other story of people like then like tarnishing that legacy of like just putting out like these saturated albums of garbage, right? But that's a whole nother story. Anyways, you guys know any other examples of like artists like that, like where you've seen stuff like that?
Actually, now that you mentioned Juice WRLD, I remember a big thing was like that I also want to talk about was like the they're like the media managers and whatever their managers like supporting their drug use and like you know whatever it's called, like making sure they have like a supply and whatnot. And I
see.
mean that I've seen like them openly talk about it.
Oh, so like
Yeah.
like for example, like their managers would be like, yeah, I'll make sure
Yeah,
they
like
have the drugs.
no, yeah, like they not only do they support it, like they
Wow.
I don't know, like that's
I feel
also
I feel like I may
interesting
have
point.
heard that.
Instead of
Yeah.
instead of like attempting to kind of quell it, it's like it's just like a agreed upon reality
Right.
in that business, which I think is something that definitely should be looked at.
Right. Yeah. So like, right, like when we're going around really, right, this whole time, it's like always comes back to the same thing, right? Like it's I don't want to like go like super like philosophical, but like it's so obvious how like literally everything in like the Western like hemisphere, like in like the US, the whole capitalism thing, and like North America, it's so obvious to see how like literally every industry, we're just talking about music, right? Like we're taking like celebrities and music and the entertainment industry, right? But this applies to everything. Like every time there is like the need to make an absurd amount of money, it's usually done with something unethical, right? Like just in this case it happened to be the entertainment industry. There's no quells about the representation of mental health or like the misuse of drugs or I don't know, like profiting off a corpse, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's also when Logan Paul made that video in Japan by the mountain with the bodies, and he showed the bodies on camera. He wasn't really acknowledging the actual situation itself, and they made a joke out of
Completely
it.
forgot about that.
I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of exploiting other people's mental health.
Oh yeah, that was awful. Yeah, when he was like,
Yeah.
and then he released that like god awful apology.
Dude, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go out on a limb here and say that that was probably intentional.
Yeah, you mean like
Because
Yeah.
I'm pretty like I think he gained a lot of popularity after that.
Oh,
He did.
definitely.
A lot of backlash too, though.
But I feel like
look, if
again,
you look at where he is
yeah.
now, you know, like,
Yeah, he is.
you know, there's a it's
Everyone
not
forgot
hard
about
to
that.
come to the conclusion that either he has like insane like moderators or whatnot, like media representatives that
Right.
like tell him what to say in those cases like that, or that was all like all planned out.
I can't even.
Both
That's,
of which are valid situations to happen.
I'm like shocked. Like he's basically unscathed if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like
He came out better because of it. That's
literally like if we think about like we all thought like, oh my god, he's over. Like what was this, 2018? Like
Yeah,
everybody was like
2018.
oh my god, like it's over for him, right? And like everybody was like, oh my god. Like, this is so bad. And like now he's like has like this massive podcast. He's like
Yo.
doing like all his like massive, like he just made a bunch of money off it, right?
Hmm.
That's like actually a great point. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Just thought of
god.
it.
I mean, we could also talk about how Kim Kardashian's career started, but that's like probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing. It's like something unorthodox.
Yeah.
Guerrilla marketing. We covered that in business.
It's guerrilla marketing, all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Business management, y'all.
Yeah. Well, Kim Kardashian and her shtick is different. Like it's not like her. I'm definitely sure some of her management team is also intertwined with Kanye's. There's probably some profiting off this, definitely, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, well,
Yeah, the greater the risk, the greater the reward.
exactly, precisely, right? But yeah, so we talked about a lot about this whole thing with mental health, how it can be capitalized upon, and how like it's borderline a business, right? And well, a lot of people are like, okay, well, why do we just talk about all this stuff? It's not that important just to talk about. And really, that's where this part of the podcast comes in. We want to talk about what you can do to help about it, why this is important, right? And for the IB listener, for the average IB student, we can also discuss how this relates back to the IB program. So, for example, we talked a lot about how mental health with celebrities, when it's paired with social media or the internet, it gets kind of blown out of proportion. There will be, because of the mask of anonymity, right, with like the person who's commenting, who's watching, things can get like pretty dangerous for an individual who maybe isn't as resourceful as Kanye, right, who can maybe not get help like Kanye. So one of the things we wanted to kind of consider is that, and we found this as a problem, is that like the IB program in general, maybe like in courses like TOK, what we really would like to see more of is maybe the relationship with mental health and the internet. So,
Hmm.
right, like for example, like I think we did a little bit of this in TOK where we watched that movie, right? Like the
Yeah. About.
what was it? It was like, you guys remember what was it? Like it was like,
I don't remember the name of it.
yeah, I think it was like it was that social media movie where it talks about how like
Yeah.
everything's an
The
algorithm.
social dilemma.
Yeah.
Oh, the
the one that was
social.
like super dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I see. It brings up a good point, but it's very
It's a great movie. Yeah.
dramatized.
Hmm.
Yeah, just
It achieves what it needs to achieve, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose. But
see, the thing about that one too is they played it safe. They
yeah,
didn't really.
They didn't touch
It's
deep
mostly
in, like,
mostly common sense stuff, and like
Right.
it's very surface level. They didn't actually bring up many examples.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
like a scenario. And
Right,
if
but
the
worse
most
comes to worse, and
cliche
people
hypotheticals.
start like going against it, they could always say, "Oh, it's just a scenario of something that could happen."
that's true.
Mhm.
Right.
But it brings awareness.
It does. It
which
does.
I think
it
it
was
does. Yeah.
That's kind of what they achieved with that, right? And like I think that was a good example. Like if we could have focused more on that, maybe like talked more about it with the teacher, because like the purpose of TOK isn't necessarily to discuss problems. It was more to talk about the nature of knowledge, right? But maybe TOK wasn't the best program for that, but maybe like in programs like English. Oh yeah, like English. Like we always do paper one analysis, right?
Yeah.
Like paper one analysis is great, or some other like HLS, like that stuff is great for talking about things in more depth. Maybe we could have had more guidance there. Maybe they could have like, okay, while also doing your English, you get to maybe talk about some kind of a global issue, and that way you can
Mhm.
learn something as well while you're at it. But I
I think
understand.
the-
mean,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
the best global engagement we had was probably in French,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
French
you're
is
right.
a huge goal.
and I feel like French class is what TOK should have been, but that's just my personal opinion.
That's a great point. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We have like surprising amount of like philosophical discussions in French,
yeah.
at least in person.
I think that has to do with a lot with the teacher, though. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's entirely related to the curriculum.
That could
Yeah,
be
I
true.
think-
Yeah, but I feel like the whole French thing with like the IB themes when you're doing the image analysis, just like even if you don't want to talk about something philosophical, you will be rendered to it, right? Like you'll have to do
Yeah.
it regardless of whether you need it or not. But yeah, so those are like a few examples, right? We can include that in our IB courses or like promote that there. Another thing we could talk about is like another element of IB, like since IB is very pro like having multifaceted students, right? That's a kind of a key thing they have. And that's why we have CAS, right? That's one of the biggest things. Like, IB students can proactively actually look for methods to address this issue, right? Like in their communities. So, for example, I think we talked about fundraisers and volunteering, right? Stuff like that, like like volunteering and fundraising for like reputable mental health institutions, like not like performative activism. Like one of these we talked about, I think, was CAMH. So, what is it? Canadian Association for Mental Health, or sorry, Canadian Addiction and Mental Health Services. I think that was the one. It's actually very cool. I think it's a government funded program. Another one I think we were talking about was it's helpful.
The help phone lines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So like help phone lines. I'm sure they have some ability to get involved there. I was reading about it the other day. I think there is for example, like you can volunteer at the centers, maybe not directly on the phone, but like you can help with like other things. You can donate, right, to the company.
Are the people on the phone like trained, like professionals, or are they just like random people they hire?
I would like to think that, but you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
They should be trained. They should be
I hope
trained.
they
Because
are.
because
Yeah.
that kind of because like if you've done whatever psychology degree or been trained in like mental health response,
Right.
you're probably not gonna go want to
Check
work
it
like a tele whatever
Right.
marketing. Well, it's
Right.
not telemarketing, but like similar kind of job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be deadly if it's like some.
And it's very traumatizing. Like it's like it's probably on the same level as being a 911 operator. Like that, those
Yeah.
types of jobs are like really
Hard
like yeah.
on you.
Yeah, can we really blame them, right, for not like wanting to be on the phone? Yeah.
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 So it's probably they probably have a hard time finding people. Although I don't know, I haven't researched into that. I'm just
Right. I'm sure there's
Rambling.
probably
Guessing.
some people who are like ethically minded and they're like, okay, I want to work as like greater good type of thing. I don't know.
yeah, that'd be
Mhm.
interesting to see what kind of pay they have.
Yeah, good point, right? Maybe they get paid well there too. What else? Yeah, other than that, maybe you could try doing for those who are interested, like in the IB program, a CAS activity. So this is naturally available for everybody. Like you can do like a volunteering activity, but a CAS activity, you can do like something that focuses on awareness and education about stuff like this. Like not too different from what we're doing, right? You can do maybe like a podcast. Maybe you want to do like not an infographic necessarily because we talked about this, but a lot of people do infographics in a performative manner. Maybe like
Mm-hmm.
some kind of like maybe try and work for a company or like maybe look for like that says like that sounds a lot easier said than done, but
Mhm.
like there's probably many places where you can work as like a volunteer and like they need a graphic designer. Like there you go. That's an example of how you could learn about things like that. You guys know any other ways we can maybe like do a CAS
Yeah,
activity?
there's always volunteer positions to help out with people with disabilities. Always,
Right. Like
probably
like a shelter.
yeah, people relating with mental health disabilities as well. But like you shouldn't really focus on that. Like if you're volunteering, like do something that you think will be good, and like because if you enjoy when you're doing, like the people who are receiving your service will
That's
also
true.
enjoy it as well.
Yeah, you should definitely do things if you're invested in it, right? Like why force
Yep.
yourself to do something that you're gonna
Especially with volunteering.
Exactly.
That's like my biggest issue with like linking school and volunteering. Like it's a good way to introduce people to volunteering, but like
It's-
tracking hours and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff that just becomes like something that they need to do instead of want to do, and that just ends up being worse for the people receiving
No, 100%. It's
that
like
volunteer stuff.
right, like they're just forcing you to do it, right? Like it removes the kind of volition, so
Hmm.
and like motivation to do it. But yeah. Then let me
Also,
just.
I googled
Oh.
it. Counselors at Kids Help Home make $35 an hour.
What?
That is pretty
Surprisingly.
terrible
Yeah.
for what they do, honestly.
Yeah.
That could
Can you
just
check
be-
how much 911
911
operators make?
Yeah.
But they're not trained in like mental health response, that kind of
Assume
thing,
they
and
would make
and they never last more than about 4 years on
Uh,
the job.
In Ontario, they make $84,000 a year.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's pretty good.
Mississauga makes 30 an hour.
Hmm.
I don't know how much 30 an hour is, but
That's
Yeah,
not
well,
80.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's less than 80.
Oh, that's in Canada though. In America, it's 24 to
Yeah,
59,000.
it's really
That's
like
horrible.
it's a
How do you
completely
even get a
thankless job.
raise?
You don't.
I
You
don't
just have
think.
to like work for so long you become the manager of
They
the
never,
floor.
they never get like stay at the job more than like
Yeah, because it's
4 years.
detrimental
Yeah,
to how.
it's like the stuff they hear is insane.
That sucks. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think really we kind of covered everything we wanted to talk about here on this
I think
podcast.
so.
Yeah. Right. Like, so if we could really like tie this all together, and we talked about this before, right? We started with the mental health issue and how like media and large corporations like to exploit the soul out of this thing, and make a bunch of money off it, and that kind of desensitizes people who are exposed to it, right? Like all the young kids or people who are on the media, they're gonna like say like, oh, they like to vilify things, right? Like paint a picture, and that helps them like. And when you do that, you have like an enemy, or you have something you like, and then inherently you will buy the product that is being sold. That's kind of an obvious, right? So, um, or like if we go into the more nuanced discussion about that, like we were before, it's not only the businesses that make money off this, it's more like different subdivisions of the business, like maybe the streaming is making money, or the managers are making money, or the producers are making money, or like the guys who are making the stem players. So like the whole point is that it's very realistic that these people are working all together, to just create some false image on the internet that makes them a lot of money. And as such, as IB students and as people who are active global citizens, not only IB students, naturally, we talked about how there's different ways the IB program or IB students could address this issue. As such, I think this information could be very useful to everybody who are listening. And as such, I think we have really talked about everything. So,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for listening. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.